Well, I think it's sorry. Howdy, folks. This is Vile Mike here. Dandelion just muted herself, and Elihu just muted himself, just as I had said I was going live.
I said I was getting
Sorry.
more coffee.
Sorry, I just got the kettle going. It's noisy.
I had to get more coffee.
Well-
I was out. I had 2 drops in my cup.
I still want to. I want to complain. We were kind of talking about it already before the stream, but I really wanted to bring up an article from the Times of Israel. Elihu kind of helped me relook for it because I was having issues. Basically, again, this is the Times of Israel. So it's, if you want to think of it as a left wing or right wing source, that's what I'm getting my sources from. And it's just a short article saying that the Iranian foreign minister is going to be meeting with Putin to decide what's going on or what they want to do together regarding the U.S. attacks on Iran. I know, and that's a very short article. That's all it really says. And that's because Russia is an ally of Iran. Basically, back in the 80s, when the United States turned their back on Iran, Russia was like, hey, we'll be your friend. And they've had a relatively stable relationship since. And that's even post fall of the Soviet Union. And in fact, it could be argued for the last 15 years that relationship has only gotten stronger. So, if Iran wanted nukes, they could get nukes from Russia. It's kind of that simple because Iran has money right now. Well, not a lot, but they have a little. Russia is really hurting for money, especially with the war going on in Ukraine.
By the way, Mike, Vladimir Putin's administration has admittedly denied that claim that Russia's economy is collapsing. I just want to let you know that, by the way.
Yeah, no one believes them.
Yeah, I just want to let that out there.
Anyone who's even taken an Econ 101 class understands that they've basically switched their economy to a wartime economy. And they've gone so far past the red that they cannot survive. Their economy will not survive them winning or losing this war at this point. There is going to be a massive, massive recession, regardless of whether they win Ukraine or not.
Well, and even if they claim to win in Ukraine, they've still got the, everybody like kind of fighting against them despite being at war.
Except for the United States. The United States has voted no to condemn the resolution that they're about that war, Russia and Ukraine. Every country has said, yes, we are voting saying this is bad, this is bad. U.S., nope. U.S., nope.
Well, and here's the other thing. Again, if you know anything about science, when it comes to actual nuclear enrichment programs, especially uranium, because that's what they're focusing on, not plutonium, uranium. If you know, that's because plutonium is much more dense, much harder to enrich, much rarer. So that's why they're focusing on uranium. If you know about their infrastructure, when it comes to their electrical power generation, Iran does not have the ability right now to both enrich their uranium to make nuclear weapons, weapons grade uranium, and run their economy as is. Remember, their population is almost 100 million people. That's almost a third, or a little less than a third of the United States. What, maybe a fourth of the United States?
About.
So yeah, they can't really afford to, unless they want their people to really get screwed over, which they can't afford to do either because they need their people on their side. And by there, I mean the government side. Yeah, they're not doing it to make nuclear weapons. They want people to think they're making nuclear weapons, but they're posturing. Every, nuclear physicist on the planet will tell you that.
Yep.
And Elahi was making a point that Netanyahu has basically been saying for the last nearly 30 years that Iran is a couple of weeks away or a couple of months away from making a nuclear bomb.
Every time he goes in front of Congress, every time he makes a statement, Iran is months away from making a nuclear weapon. He even brought out little maps and diagrams every single time he talks.
And again, with Russia as their ally, they don't need to frickin' enrich their own uranium. They can just buy them from Russia. And the best part for Russia would be if Iran buys their nukes, they also have to now pay to maintain them. Because Iran doesn't have the infrastructure to keep those nukes maintained. So this whole thing, as I said, it was posturing, both on Iran's side, on Israel's side, and the U.S. side. I do think the U.S. should be supporting its allies, period. That's why I'm very much for U.S. support of Ukraine. But I don't think this was the correct way of going about it. Personally. I don't know about you guys.
Well, he does hire the best people, and and Christie did say Iran's not close to developing any nuclear weapons. So I'm like, he does hire the best people, unquote. So he should be listening to her, but he doesn't believe jack shit she said, and she wasn't even involved in the meetings.
Which Christie? You talking about Christie Nome?
Yeah, whatever her Homeland Security, whatever her name is.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah. Gabbard, thank you. Yeah,
Sorry.
she was not included into the meetings. She was not at the strike last night in the room. Like, okay, what is the point of having her there if you're not going to listen to her and do your own
Isn't she
thing?
in charge of the CIA or something like that?
She's
Homeland Security.
no, that's
Pete. That's Pete. That's Pete. Sorry,
No.
Pete Hedges.
no.
Pete is Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense. Tulsi is like the international spy stuff, so maybe CIA, but it's different. I can't remember the name of it. Hang on, I'll Google, because Homeland Security is known. So
Because Nome is in charge of of ICE right now,
yeah,
Sorry.
where she gets to cosplay.
National Intelligence. Director of National Intelligence. That's Tulsi.
Okay,
Gabbard.
so she's in charge of both the FBI and the CIA.
Yes. No, because that little dude who always looks surprised is in charge of the FBI.
Patel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
that's Patel.
I think this would be National Intelligence, I believe, was CIA. Hold on. I got my other phone so I can actually Google.
Yeah, no, something like that. Yeah, but isn't she the Russian asset, Tulsi Gabbard?
Alleged Russian asset.
And actually, didn't they just find some like Russian spy was one of like Trump's?
Oh, what's his name?
assistants?
Yeah, that guy's name. Who wasn't given any security briefs automatically?
Sergio something.
Yeah,
From Malta. Malta's like, nope, not from here.
Oh God, hold on. I decided to I'm just going to do national intelligence. And the first thing that pops up is the National Intelligence University.
Don't know what that is. All right, I got to pause for a second. I'm about to make a bunch of noise in my kitchen. So.
All right, so the National Intelligence Director, or the DNI, is in charge of the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the NSA, the FBI. So Patel actually does respond to her, report to her. So yeah, basically Patel is one of her bitches.
and he seems to listen more to Scott Bray than anybody else.
Mm.
You guys hear me?
What?
Yep,
We can't
I
hear
saw
you.
you.
What?
I knew
guess
you
I can't
were
hear me. I
looking
gotta
about
go.
as soon as my background changed.
Yep. Yep. What's up, guys?
All right, have you been listening in or no?
Just got on. No. Haven't been listening. All I
right,
heard
so-
was a little something about you think these guys don't have a bomb.
Well, Iran? Oh yeah, they don't have a bomb yet.
Yeah. It's a nice, pleasant thought, though. I hope you're right.
Well, I'm going by every scientific reason why they wouldn't have one.
And I'm going by every report that the
What
Republican
about-
Party has brought out for the past 3 months.
What about the reality check of China just giving them what they need?
China is not an ally of Iran. They would have no reason to. Russia is, which
Russia.
that's what one of the things we were talking about. If Iran wanted a nuclear bomb, they could just buy one from Russia because Russia is desperate for cash right now. So, yeah, if Iran wanted a bomb, they could get one very easily.
So the
Their
odds
own
of them
enrichment-
having one are high.
Not yet, because as most Russian nukes are heavily tracked by the U.S. Intelligence services.
Mhm.
So we would know almost right away if Iran decides to purchase one.
And it's been repeated several times by the Trump administration that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. He also said he wouldn't be starting wars either.
Yeah. He also said they're eating cats and dogs.
Well, I'm not going to go into that debacle, but I did basically what I was talking about was the enrichment, the uranium enrichment program. I mean, LDG. I said it earlier. Why is it they're going for uranium instead of plutonium?
I don't know. Good question.
Because uranium's easier for one.
Okay.
Plutonium is a much more dense nuclear material, and it's a lot harder to enrich it. So that's why they're doing uranium. 2, how much power does it take to actually separate and enrich uranium to make it into a nuclear capable, or enough to make it the warhead weapons grade?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Like I said, I think they can just passcode collect 300 and get themselves a bomb much easier.
Oh yeah, it would be much easier. The enrichment centers that they were building were posturing. They didn't even have enough power lines to connect it to them to even do jack diddly or squat. They don't have enough power to generate in the country to run an enrichment program and their economy at the same time.
I also think China might have even though they might not be friends with them, they have an incentive to help them.
Not really. China wouldn't help Iran out right now because
I'm trying to talk and I'm muted. I'm trying to talk and I'm muted. I was trying to tell you guys that in order to produce a weapons-grade uranium for bomb, you need several thousand centrifuges running continuously for months and tens of thousands of kilowatts of energy, of electricity.
Yeah. They could Iran could basically put every power generation system in the entire country to enriching uranium. It would still take them at least 2 years.
Well, now it'll take them longer.
Well, as I said, the sites that they were building were basically posturing. They were basically dummy ships.
I'm
Yeah, I
so
was gonna
happy
say,
that Trump is trying to get us into World War III. It's
No,
fantastic.
Danny
War
Lyon, that
IV.
is a little antagonistic.
I know.
I do think he shouldn't have used the B2s.
Yep.
Because that was just kind of overkill. I mean, 6 B2s, 4 of which were armed with the largest bomb we've ever created, essentially.
The bunker
Moab.
buster.
Not to mention how many Tomahawk missiles?
Moab, not the bunker buster. Moab.
Well, I said essentially the largest because the bunker buster bomb that they
The
use can only be carried.
The Moab is the most powerful.
Yes, but I'm talking about this specific bomb. The one that
It's
was
a
used
bunker
by the
buster.
B2s
I
can
know what
only be carried. Can only be carried by the B2, which is why Israel requested we use it, because we literally have the only aircraft on the planet that can carry one.
Yeah. Pretty good coordination too. I was rather impressed with it. Similar to
I like
the
confirmation on what they actually blew up, though. Did they get that
already were
mountain
told.
thing?
Anyway,
Well, as I said, it was three potential enrichment sites, but you know, as I said, they were essentially props. They were cardboard cutouts of nuclear enrichment programs.
says who?
Says every nuclear scientist on the planet.
Really?
Yes, because
Every
one,
nuclear scientist
one-
on the planet, what they all do all of a sudden get together and sign a paper at 2 a.m.
no, of course not. But when they release their
how do you
statements,
know the answer? Then how do you know every nuclear scientist?
I was being facetious, dude.
Okay,
But virtually,
no, don't be facetious.
but if you know anything about nuclear science, then you would know that there was
I don't
not
know
nearly
nuclear
enough.
science.
Sorry.
I don't know nuclear science, but I don't care.
Well, I can tell you, as someone who was actually interviewed by the FBI for designing a nuclear bomb.
Not my problem. You did that.
Sorry, say that again.
Not my problem. You did that.
I didn't say it was your problem. I'm just saying I do know a little bit about nuclear science.
Yeah, so does the
I
guy.
mean, it's not that hard though, man. I got the FBI at my door after I went to Taco Bell and had a Red Bull for having a nuclear bomb. I mean, shit.
I've had the FBI at my house several times.
Yeah. No, but anyway,
So I don't know what you're making. I don't know why you're making a big deal out of it.
Well, because I'm just saying is there is no way Iran was actually building their own nuclear bombs, because the easier thing for them to do right now, as they are allies with Russia, is to buy one from Russia. Russia needs money.
Oh, you think it's just that easy for them?
Yes, it is that easy.
Yes, Dandelion. In a lot of cases, I don't care. But at least I didn't run off. By the way, Mike, why'd you bother responding to me? I had not responded back to your comment on the DM. Why'd you bother? I was done with the conversation.
You've literally flooded my thing with a bunch of random BS, dude. So
yeah,
I literally saw something from a Waihu.
After you responded to your own, you sent a message. I didn't respond to it, and then
to clarify,
I had nothing to clarify. I was done.
I was clarifying my position,
and I was done with the conversation. But you decided you wanted to add more to it, so I decided
because I needed to clarify.
No, well, you needed to clarify.
Yes, and to make sure that my point was made, I was responding to my own comment.
Your points were pitiful.
Well, that's your opinion, and frankly, your opinion isn't worth dog shit at this point, dude. So,
well, neither is yours. I mean,
well, you're the one on my channel.
Oh, of course, I know you like to throw that part out.
Do your own stream if you really want to. Complain about mine all you want, dude.
I'm simply trying to talk to you. You're the one who throws a fit.
Nana, boo boo. Can we stop the whining?
Hey guys, the Iranian parliament just voted to close the Strait of Hormuz.
What's that?
The Iranian parliament has just voted to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Hold on, that's not the one in the Arabian, is it?
Yeah, it's by the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Iran. It's 20% of the world's oil supply travels through this area.
So what we were afraid of them happening is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it just happened. They closed down the Strait of Hormuz. They closed it down.
Well, if it's the one I'm thinking about that we were talking about, the one that's got the little bend in the strait near Iran, then yeah,
it is.
this was fully expected, even before we attacked those sites. So yeah.
To answer Dandelion, I actually do have mixed feelings about this whole thing with the bombing of Iran. My wife even thinks this was a bad idea. With my buddies in the military, both past and current, all the ones from the past, there are some that are very happy about this because they felt it's been a long time coming, and others like me who are like, okay, what's the end game here? So yeah, I'm not really sure where I'm at or how I feel about this.
Here's my question. Hegseth has repeatedly said that he's not looking for a regime change. If there's not going to be a regime change in Iran, what's the point of doing all this?
That's
because, as I said it was posturing both on Iran's part, Israel's part, and the U.S.'s part.
Oh, I would agree with that. That's my whole point. If we're not going to help, if we're just going to do like Obama did and give them that bit of hope and then be like, no, we're not going to do anything. Yeah, that's really going to look better. Remember, if you're not going to get rid of the government, what was the point of bothering? Because
all I see this doing is, ever since we got rid of the Iran-U.S. deal under Obama, I've only seen the ties between Iran and Russia get stronger.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that.
And one of the things I was bringing up beforehand was already right after the attack, the Iranian foreign minister is going to meet with Putin to basically discuss possible retaliation against U.S. bases in the area. So even though Russia is strapped for weapons, I do believe that Iran will start buying more weapons from Russia again in order to use those against U.S. sites. And I don't see why not Russia wouldn't put nukes on the table if it means that they get to destabilize a U.S. ally in the region.
It would be one thing about what's going on in Russia. Yeah, they're strapped for cash. They've been at war for 11 years.
Well, Dandelion, I would add, hold on, Elijah. I want to respond to Dandelion's comment. Okay. When it comes to the U.S. attacks, I will give them credit for the fact that they were so strategic for the most part. The civilian, because of the locations of them, as well as the precision of the B-2s specifically, there was very few casualties. In fact, we essentially told Iran beforehand, we're going to hit these targets, evacuate those targets. And if anything, Iran was happy to do so because those were dummy sites. They weren't really up and running. They weren't anything important.
What about the London bombings? How many civilians died during that one?
We're not talking about those.
No, what I'm saying is that because of the technology back then, the civilian casualties were almost impossible, virtually impossible not to do. Now we have these very nice precision target stuff, so that should be at a very minimum nowadays.
Well, it's like a lot of, when you hear a lot of like the Iranian attacks on Israel's sites, military targets. Israel tends to surround their military targets with civilian populations. We do the same thing here in the United States. Just look at San Diego. Just look at San Francisco. Look at Los Angeles. I'm not saying it's not something that happens.
Wait a minute. Hang on. I need to clarify that. We do not have missiles within the center of a population area. We have it on the outskirts of population area. Israel has it in the center of downtown.
It's Elihu. It's still close enough that any attack on a military base in California, at least, I don't know about the rest of the country because I don't visit military bases on outside California that often. It would severely attack on Miramar would devastate Mira Mesa, and there are 100,000 people living in Mira Mesa, and I'm pulling that number out of my ass.
Well, I wanted to finish what I was going to say. Since Iran
Also, Mrs.
closed
Vile
that
is in the
strait
chat.
down, hola, Mrs. Cardenas. Since Iran did close that strait, that means the Houthis are going to be patrolling it, and they have a history of attacking U.S. Navy ships.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Iran has been supporting the Houthis as well as Hamas.
They're going to be monitoring the passageway, and they have a history of attacking U.S. Navy ships. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And there's already a carrier in the Gulf.
More people are going to be worried about the oil tankers right now because of how dependent we are on petroleum products.
Yeah.
I mean, as you were pointing out earlier, 20% of all oil basically comes through that area.
Yeah, which means since he's posturing, it seems like Hedges is going to be. I'm just speculating. He's going to be protecting the area for the oil, which means the U.S. Navy is going to be in that area, which means the Houthis are also in that area.
I was thinking about something the other day during the war. We started out with Al Qaeda, then it ended up being the Taliban, then it ended up being ISIS. Oh, and then somewhere in there we had ISIL because fucking Bush too had to give Daddy a present, and it had to be our Iraq.
Well, I would also point out, remember, both the Taliban and Al Qaeda were our allies at one point.
Yeah, I know. Because
I remember hearing about people in the area complaining about literally being shot with their weapons that we provided them.
Yeah, well, we provided them weapons to go up against the communists, Russia. Now, I'm not saying that was the smartest thing to do, obviously, but it was a different era. Shit was different then. Unfortunately. But yeah, it was just crazy those last 20 years.
So, I'm fairly confident, at least a lot of the people that I follow that I respect as both on the left and the right, have said that there's pretty much a guaranteed retaliation from Iran on U.S. bases in the area. That's why they've been put on high alert.
Yeah, my wife was actually talking about that. The closest base is actually in Incirlik, Turkey. Now,
yeah, where the missiles are.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Okay, here's the key thing. Not only is that a U.S. base, Turkey is a NATO ally. So
yeah, I know.
That was like when I would hear people like, what was it? Turkey and
Be right back.
Turkey and another, I don't know, it was something. They wanted us to do something to Turkey because of some other group that we were once allied with during the war. And it's like, well, they were our allies. I was like, yeah, they were our allies when we needed them. Now we don't need them. And we can't go exactly attacking NATO, our own NATO forces. That would just look stupid.
Well, unfortunately, Dandelion, with the current tensions regarding Israel, I don't see there being a de-escalation right now.
Honestly, does Israel even seem like they want a de-escalation? I mean,
Man, that's part of the problem. I don't think they do.
No, I know they don't.
And by that, I mean the government. I'm not talking about the people.
Actually, a lot of the people, too. Thank you, Dandelion. Actually, it was a very good Father's Day. I went out with my wife. We spent the weekend at a casino and hotel. I actually
Well-
came out ahead. I went in with $100. I went in with 130. Came out with 217. By the time I was done, I was like, I'm good.
Well,
Captain
I would say that,
MKG asked a question.
yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of this is going to be distraction for the time being because it's going to dominate the news cycle. I'm worried that it's going to increase certain things happening here in California because without it being covered by the news as much, people are going to be not listening.
Wait, you back in America?
Well, no, I'm in Mexico right now.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to see Mrs. Vile. So yeah, I'm like before, I'm sitting in the car outside her place so I can smoke.
No, I meant I thought you moved out of America during the old during the whole immigration shit.
No, I can't leave the U.S. right now because I can't get a passport.
Oh.
It's a ridiculous situation. Okay, around 10 years or so ago,
It's funny. The people who want to
The-
come can't come. The people who want to leave can't leave. Okay, what the fuck, dude?
well, let me explain. About 10 years ago, I missed a payment on my child support. So the state disbursement unit decided to seize one of my bank accounts. And at the time, my bank account had about $10,000 in it. So even though I was only short $100, they took $10,000 from me. And they basically held that money in reserve in case I was ever late on my child support payments.
My child
Now,
But if you had $10,000, why the fuck were you late?
because at the time I was my only income was my online. Well, basically SD GameSwap was my only form of income.
You had $10,000. You only had to pay
Yeah,
100.
Okay, let me explain. No, hold on. Let me explain.
you had the money.
Because I didn't have it wasn't being taken out of my paycheck directly. I had to go down each week to actually physically pay my child support on Fridays. And occasionally, because of the parking situation downtown, I would not make it on time. I had basically between
you
2
didn't
o'clock
go
and
early
4
enough.
o'clock only on Fridays to pay my child support.
No, I get it, and I get it's fucked up.
So-
I'm on your side now,
right.
but going early
So,
is going
now-
early. I mean, you're responsible for
Now-
that shit.
The state of California held on to that money until Caddy turned 18. Now, after she turned 18, I
Right.
no longer had to pay child support. And they
Yeah.
closed the primary disbursement account. But they kept open the reserve account. But after a certain thing that Trump signed into law, it basically meant that California could no longer give me back that money. I have to go through the federal government to get that money back. And they are refusing to give me my money back. So
That sounds like something a lawyer could easily fix.
a lawyer could fix it. I can't afford a lawyer right now.
You have $10,000 in escrow, and
I don't have any access to that money. I have, and actually it's even less
Yeah,
than
but-
that now because they charge me a fee to store that money. It's actually down to less than 5,000 now. So yeah, that's even funnier.
Like, that's fucked up, dude.
Yeah, the child support situation in this country is completely fucked up.
because you couldn't
Now,
go
hold on.
early. Oh,
Yes,
fuck.
because I literally only had a 2-hour window each week to pay my child support.
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't matter.
still
You
on
still went
you.
early.
So
That's
hold
still
on.
on you,
So well, because that account is still open, I cannot get my child support, or I'm sorry, I can't get my passport because they are worried that if I get my passport, I'm trying to flee the country to not pay my child support, which I no longer have to pay.
Guess you should have gone on time then.
None of this makes sense.
I
Well,
should have. I was late once.
That'll do it.
Of course, it's the
You
government. So
expect that if you let me explain something to you. I learned very, very well. When you owe the government money, they are going to get it from you lickety split. When they owe you money, phew, have fun.
yeah. Many people know this
All right.
already, but yeah,
Now,
it's like
okay, so when it comes to the U.S. California, or sorry, the California Mexico border, I can cross with just my driver's license, but without a passport, I cannot travel more than a few kilometers from the border. If I do, I will essentially be breaking those laws in Mexico.
Well, why don't you go down
So-
there, protest them, and have them changed?
Well, I can't. I'm one person.
Well, one person can do a lot of change, but it usually requires going out in a bang.
Yeah, and considering what's some of the stuff that's happening here on the Mexican side of the border is kind of ridiculous.
Oh, I loved my divorce in California. I had to pay spousal support while on top of paying child support while my daughter was in CPS. Then I get custody of her, and I still have to pay the bitch child support. And California decides she doesn't have to pay me child support because she has no job. And they wouldn't.
That's weird. That's weird because California, even when I would say that I technically didn't have a job, they still said that based on your last known employment is what they were going to charge you for child support.
Yeah, well, simple fact is, she never paid a dime of child support, not in 18 fucking years. I had to pay spousal support for 2 years after I got full custody of my child. And then my ex-wife had the audacity to call me and ask me to continue paying her. Because I had the month figured out exactly when I got to stop paying this.
Well, what's funny for me is I was telling Caddy, because in California, you still have to pay child support after your child turns 18, as long as the child is living at home and going to school full time. And I told her, don't use the child support as an issue not to go to school. Go to fucking school. I will continue to pay the child support. I don't give a shit. But of course, Caddy's not going to school, but I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, my kids are.
But yeah, basically, Dandelion, as long as I'm not going outside of Tijuana, I can be a few miles from the border. They don't care. In fact, that's what should be allowed in the U.S. as well, but apparently that's going to be a no-go. I mean, I would vote for it personally, but
I really got a Geloja.
I mean, let's put it this way. One of the reasons why Mexico has that deal with California is because if Mexico's economy is doing well along the border, that means that they're going to be coming back over to our side to buy stuff as well. I mean, that's why Mrs. Vile has her visa. It's basically a tourist visa. She's allowed to buy stuff. Well, that's basically what I do. Is I cross the border with just a driver's license. I do have to explain almost every single time why I don't have a passport, but once I tell them it's a child support issue, they, roll their eyes and they're like, I get it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, child support can be such a pain in the ass.
It's one of the things that I always think is kind of funny because Caddy's mom was all about, she wanted her child support. She wanted it as high as budget possible. But the younger kid's mom, she absolutely abhors the idea of child support. She won't do anything. I mean, I've offered to help with money and she won't take it. There's a few things, Captain MKG, there's a few things that are still expensive around here, but
Oh, dude, hamburger is now $7 a pound.
yeah, but pork was down to $2.19 a pound last week. That's why for Father's Day we grilled pork.
Well, eggs went down to $5.
Yeah, but it's the end of spring essentially, so that's when they're slaughtering all the winter hogs.
It's summer now.
Summer now, they've been slaughtered.
Yeah, so that's why pork was cheap.
Yeah, one of my chickens might not make it.
Ooh, how are you gonna cook them?
Don't know yet. Gotta wait, see if it's gonna go to the vet. There's a vet visit on Monday. Yeah, little fucker got into a fight with somebody, got his wing tore all to hell. So
Time to cook them.
yeah, I don't think that wing's salvageable. I think that one's gonna have to go to freezer camp. Yeah, I had 3 dead chickens yesterday. Yeah, what happened? Predators?
Well,
I'm just curious. Predators?
So do you think essentially that we're going to end up at war in the near future?
I cannot
Well,
I cannot rule it as I cannot rule it as a possibility.
if any U.S. bases besides ships actually get attacked, there's a high probability that Congress may actually declare a war.
Well, it would have to be one of the non-governmental groups out there. In other words, Hamas couldn't do it because essentially they are acting government for the Palestinians in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't be the Taliban because, again, acting government of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It would have to be the Houthis or Hamas, not Hamas. What was the other one?
The Iranian military itself.
No, if the Iranians actually do it themselves, they would have to be doing it with weapons they purchased from Russia, and that's going to piss off the U.S. against Russia, and Russia can't afford that right now. Because the last thing they want is us to start giving them money, Ukraine money again, or weapons and money again.
Yeah, all those 5,000 missiles that were supposed to go to Ukraine ended up going to Israel.
Yeah, what happened also with the Israel strikes that hit Iran? They were shooting missiles at like so many thousand a day, and then it's dropped down more. It's like their leadership's in somewhat of a disarray due to all their high echelon guys getting popped.
Well, I don't know why, but for some reason, the Israel government ordered all live stream cameras to not focus on the city, but to go in the air, sky view. I'm like, okay, what? You were preventing people from getting exact attack? All I gotta do is hit the rewind on the video. What was the point of that? Yeah, the Israel government ordered all webcams that are doing live streams in Israel territory to focus on the sky and not the ground or buildings. I'm like, what?
All right. Well, with the Captain MKG, again, Greenland and Panama seems to be more of a pipe dream. You're not going to be able to attack a NATO ally, just like NB was talking about with Turkey, without incurring the wrath of the rest of NATO. So that
Panama, I think we could negotiate with.
Well, Panama, we probably could, but there's no reason to make them a protectorate status right now because they're already protected by China and the European Union.
Yeah, well, that was our unfortunate problem for not trying to keep it.
Well, that was because we were abiding by the treaty. We signed a treaty and we are abiding by it.
Yes, I know. We didn't try
For the
to.
first time.
Yeah, we honored the treaty, and then we let. Oh, shut up, Elihu.
And- Well, that was during a time period where we tended to listen to treaties. That, short time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
But it is 45 minutes in. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. I'll be posting the link to StreamYards on the other stream in a second. I hadn't done it because I was staying up late playing video games last night.
Mm.
So
Okay, I'll see
I
you
will
there. I
talk-
gotta do later, guys.
All right, later.